much for coming in and making the effort today. I know that for some of you getting up even early to come to school is a really big ask, and I'm pleased to see so many of you are here. So what I'll do is I'll get straight into it. Everybody needs to be able to see a copy of their assignment sheet first. Right? If it's online, if it's on Edmodo, make sure you've got it in front of you on your iPad. If it's a hard copy, make sure you can see it right now. We're going to go through these first 5 points, which is how to construct a flowchart. So if you want to follow along while I read, that would be excellent. Then I'll talk about the notes that are on the board. Alright? How to construct a flowline map. First of all, 1, select your statistics, which have been provided for you, and arrange them from the smallest to the largest units. Then you need to find a suitable base map, which we've also provided for you, and decide on the corresponding thickness of the lines to demonstrate the quantity being shown on the map. 4, you need to draw the lines in varying thicknesses according to the data set and add an arrowhead to show the direction of movement from the origin to the destination. And then lastly, you need to make sure that your flowline map has all the elements of bolts present, is neatly presented, and is in colour. So that's right there on the front of your assignment sheet. So if we have a look at the notes on the board, and please feel free to take photos or make some notes of your own. Flowline maps, as I'm hoping Mr. Cox and Mr. Dingley have spoken to you, represent movement from origin to destination. They're based on statistical fact, and they are usually proportionate to each other. So if you have a look at the second page of your assessment task, you can see that there's a table showing the amount of wheat, the percentage of Australian wheat that's exported to these countries down here on the left-hand side. These are the statistics that have come from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. We took them in August last year, but we've kept them the same to make it easy for you guys. Right? But these are official statistics from the ABS. Now that gives you a clue for the source that you need to include on your map, right? Bolts, double S, scale and source. The source is the Australian Bureau of Statistics. But let's get back to what's here on the board. The largest percentage we can see in this table is 20%. What's the smallest, Sirak? On your table, what's the smallest percentage? 5%. Beautiful. The largest is 20, the smallest is 5. Now, because it needs to be proportional, we need to have a think about these in terms of fractions, and this is where you're going to do some mathematical thinking for me. I'm going to pick mostly on the kids in 9 Reg, but I might try and think on some other kids as well. So, Daniel, you're going to help me out here. If we're thinking of fractions, what's 20 out of 20? What's it equivalent to? 1, a whole. Excellent. Mark, can you tell me what 15 out of 20 is? 0.75. 0.75, but if we're thinking in fractions, it's? 3 out of 4. Perfect. Jimmy, can you tell me what 10 out of 20 is? Come on, Jimmy. What's 10 out of 20 in a fraction, if I give you a clue? 1 out of 2, it's half. And then lucky last Lincoln, you're going to tell me what 5 out of 20 is. What's that worth? 1 quarter. Perfect. Beautiful. So now we have our percentages of our exports written down in fractions. These fractions then tell us how thick our flow lines need to be. And so Mark, you mentioned before that 3/4 was 0.75. Let's start with that here. 0.75. Sorry, a bit squished. So if 3/4 is 0.75, what's 1 whole going to be? 1 centimetre. Absolutely perfect. Are we getting the picture? Nipun, can you tell me what 10% is going to be worth in centimetres? If we're looking for half of 1, it's going to be in a decimal point. 0.5, well done. And then lucky last, Shane, can you tell me what 5% is going to be represented as? 0.25. Now, gentlemen, this is your cheat sheet right here. If you are here this morning, this is the key piece of information that you need to know. Okay? These are the exact thicknesses of the flow lines on your map. Take a photo, write them down. I'll hop out of the way. Count to 5. Make sure you put a clear photo, one that you can zoom in on and see if you're at the back of the room. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright. It's really important, guys, that when you're doing this exercise, you use a ruler. We have to be as accurate as possible. And in fact, on your criteria sheet, that last category right there is for neatness and accuracy. You can get 10 marks just for making sure you've got these lines the right shape, the right thickness. So using a ruler, I'm going to use a pretend ruler because I didn't have one big enough this morning. Alright, using a ruler, you're going to be able to measure the thickness of the line. Now the easiest way to do this is to start at your point of origin. Now, this is a tiny map in comparison to, yours is a tiny map in comparison to this. And yours are going to be quite squished together. Normally we would suggest you go from nation's capital to nation's capital. This is Indonesia, by the way. From nation's capital to nation's capital. But you're going to have so many lines coming out of Canberra that it's just kind of going to become a blob. So you could put them around the edge of Australia, that's okay. But here's the trick. Which of these countries on this table has a total export percentage of 20%? Just shout one out for me. So,
United States.
The United States, yes, they get 20% of our wheat exports on a yearly basis, or at least they did in 2013. On this map, I've drawn us Indonesia because it's nice and close. It's also the top one on the list. Alright? Here is how you draw a flow line, gentlemen. You measure the base. You're going to do it with a ruler. And you're going to put 2 dots to show you how thick something should be. So in this case, this is going to represent roughly 1 centimetre. Yours is going to be exactly 1 centimetre. On my map, it's not quite. Alright? At the point of destination, we're looking for those capitals, remember? So Jakarta is somewhere over here. You're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to use your ruler to measure 1 centimetre. Alright. That shows you how thick your line is going to be at the start and how thick your line is going to be at the end. Now you have 2 ways of doing this. The example that we've given you on your sheet, on your assessment sheet, shows curved lines. You can do it with straight lines if it's easier for you. If you're doing it with straight lines, make sure you use your ruler. If you're doing it with curved lines, I'd put another set of dots, 1 centimetre apart, and then you're able to freehand join them up. Whoops, not very well. Alright? But that should be an even thickness the whole way. The last thing you need to do with these flow lines is show the direction of the movement from origin to destination. So is the wheat going from Australia to Indonesia or from Indonesia to Australia? Eddie? Say that again a little bit louder. Australia to Indonesia, perfect. So we need to put an arrowhead to show the direction of the movement. This sounds pretty simple so far, right? Alright? You're going to have 10 arrows that come out of Australia around the rest of the world. 10 arrows in these thicknesses. Simple so far? Savvy? Beautiful. Alright, the last thing you need to make sure that you have on your map is bolts. Now, we've already provided you a map with a border. We've already given you a scale for your map as well. I was cheeky before and told you what the source was. Does anyone remember it? Annie. Bureau of where? The Australian Bureau of Statistics. That's where this data has come from. It is underneath the table. It is underneath the table of information. So that's where the numbers or data have come from. So you will need to create an orientation. Your legend needs to be in numerical order and boxed within the border. Not outside the border, within the border, gentlemen. That's really important. You need to tell us what is being shown on your map. What are we showing, Mark?
The exports from Australia to other countries.
The percentage of Australian wheat exports from to other countries, rather. You're quite right. Well done. So that should be the title of your map or something very, very similar. Lastly, you need to make sure your map is neat and it's accurate. So that includes both your flow lines and your shading. It also means your location and your lines are accurate as well. That said, let me give you some tips. First of all, make sure you read this assessment task sheet and you do the maths. In fact, we did the maths together, so it's already done. You've got no excuse. There's a blank table at the bottom of this assessment sheet you should fill in to make sure you can put your legend in numerical order. Right? We haven't done anything on this assessment task to try and trick you. It's all really simple if you follow step by step. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to use an atlas or Google Maps, digital or paper, to find out where these locations are. Because as I told 9 Gold yesterday, it was really difficult when someone put France in the middle of the Middle East. That's not so accurate. Okay, you need to make sure you know where these countries are and that you point correctly to them. So if you need to rub out a little bit of your line to make sure your arrowhead goes to the right place, please do it. Accuracy is really important. Accuracy is also important when we're talking about the measurements of these lines. They have to be this thickness, guys. They have to be. Otherwise, they're not going to fit on your map. You also have to make sure that they're consistent. So if you have 1.25 centimetre line, it has to be 0.25 centimetres every time there's 5% of Australia's wheat export going to a country. Can't be 2.7, can't be, 0.27, can't be 0.32 either. It has to be 0.25, otherwise you aren't making it accurate. Tip number 4 is that BOLTS is a whole criteria. If you miss one of these 6 things, you've missed 10 marks. It's that simple, and this assessment task is only marked out of 30. That's how important BOLTS is. Fine liners for this task are a must. Your flow lines and your data labels must be written in fine liner. Must be written in fine liner. And lucky last, your shading, how you colour the map, needs to be appropriate. Please don't colour in water purple. Please don't colour in land some kind of crazy polka dot black. Right? It needs to be appropriate. This map is supposed to be as accurate as possible. So appropriate colours would be blue for water, green or brown for land. Those are about your only choices. Make sure your colouring is neat and appropriate. And gentlemen, that's about it. It is honestly a very simple assignment. It just takes a little bit of explaining, and if you don't get this maths part right, the whole assessment task becomes a lot harder than it needs to be. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to assume that I explained everything really, really well then. Excellent. Guys, once again, I want to thank you for coming into school early this morning. I know it was a tough ask for some of you. Give yourselves a massive round of applause. Woo! Now, your projects are due on Monday the 31st. Do not be late with this assessment task. Thanks, gentlemen. Away you go.